So cops are under fire in America. We've all seen it, or have we? It's interesting how the media don't cover too much of this, but they are facing bullets, they're being shot at, and also people are throwing everything at them, from garbage to bricks to cans of soup. Police in this country are being scapegoated for every social problem we've ever had. And so when things go wrong for the cops, it's all been normalized. It's just no big deal. Did you see this?
How's it going? Do you have your license registration with you today?
No.
Yeah, roll on the window. It's a little dark over there, sir. You got curtains over the window? You have your license registration with you?
Hold on.
Oh, what are you getting out for?
Huh?
What are you getting out for?
I gotta look in my wallet.
Well, so, all right, that's fine. You can open the door if you want. Oh, you get out. Oh, shit. Oh,
Stuff like that's is happening all the time. The media have generated such an anti-cop frenzy in this country that a moment like this, it might blow up on your phone if you're conservative, if you lean right and you follow such websites, but basically everybody's shrugging their shoulders, even when it's far more serious.
Okay, come on.
Officer was shot several times in the head before the motorist drove off. In just a little bit, we'll be joined by the family of David Dorn. A year ago, during that summer of violence, he was killed as he protected a business in St. Louis. He was working as a security guard. He's retired law enforcement. He was acknowledged for his bravery by President Trump, but very few have taken an interest ever since. Right now, the left, they are running out of police targets, actually. You know, going after the cops, for them, they are firmly the bad guy. So they're expanding their reach, and they're going after ordinary people, especially people who happen to not be of color, to be white.
The onus for change is put on blacks, not whites.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, one of the favorite questions that I know a number of black people hear regularly, but certainly since 2020, is what can I do? How can I help? As if this information has been kept secret all these years, as if there aren't documentaries and books, as if there aren't ways in which you can get access to information about what specifically can you do to help this country stop being racist.
Little touchy there, right? Some white liberal in this notional conversation just asked, how can I help? You know, you hear about all this stuff, they want to help. And that's his response. It gets worse. And remember, this is one of the signature political talk shows. This week with George Stephanopoulos. Martha filling in yesterday.
When you're presented with the question, what can I do? That does two things. First of all, it announces the white person saying, I'm not racist, it's not me. But then also, two, do the work for me, which speaks to their privilege. So one of the things I would like to see happen is that more and more people who are concerned about this issue, who happen to be white, move away from asking, what can I do, and move towards asking, why haven't I done what I know I can do yet?
With an attitude like that, a lot of folks are just going to skip the conversation altogether, just let you say stuff, and they'll talk about you once you leave the room. It's fascinating. All over network television, they're talking about police violence, but not asking some basic questions. That's enough now. Dante Wright. We've all heard about this. A horrible mistake was obviously made by that police officer. She grabbed her gun when she wanted to grab her taser. But no one is asking some obvious questions of the family at this point. That's represented by a very well-established attorney. Why did this young man run? Was that the right thing to do? If he did not run, this would not have happened. I think it's a fair thing to point out, but Benjamin Crump, the attorney for that family and the Chauvin family and for Breonna Taylor, can go on every single network TV show and not be asked some very basic questions.
Mr. Crump, you have represented countless families in civil suits, including the family of 17-year-old Trayvon Martin and the family of 18-year-old Michael Brown, who was killed by a white police officer in Ferguson, Missouri. The officers involved in those shootings were either acquitted or no charges were filed.
Not only basic questions, but almost structured like an infomercial for his law firm.
You also said that you will not stop until there's meaningful policing, justice reform, until we reach the goal of true equality. What does that look like to you?
Well, it means that we hold police officers accountable and we change the laws in America where you have the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act passed to change the culture and the behavior of policing in America.
Change the culture, change behavior, hold them accountable. Does he see what's happening? Of course they're being held accountable. An officer who made a mistake has been charged with manslaughter. We got officers who are routinely being charged with murder. Here's Officer Potter. Her life will never be the same. She'll never be a cop, and there's a good chance she's going to go to jail. Things are changing.
The crux of the matter is this. I was born black, and I'm a die black, but police do not kill me because I am black.
Mr. Crump, we really appreciate you joining us this morning. Thanks so much.
You see how they cater to him? You know, they're excessively polite. He can say something like that as if this is South Africa and it's 1979, you're killed because you're black. That doesn't happen here. And even though he's emotional and powerful, I got to throw some cold water on this. Let's look at the numbers, shall we? So far this year, 213 total deaths by the hands of police. 30 of them, just 30 of them, have been black people. That's too much, but that's interesting, isn't it? Goes against the narrative. The narrative, by the way, this is all over the place. There are so many people of different races who want to have a dishonest conversation right now about race.
The really amazing thing that I've learned is black people know the truth. They know exactly what's going on. It's white people that don't know.
We don't realize sometimes, especially as a white person, how impactful, how offensive they are.
As a white person, as white people, we need to listen.
When it comes to race, white people need to listen more.
I think I'm just embarrassed as a white person.
As a white person, I would say, of course, I probably do play a part in that racism.
A lot of white people don't understand the depth of this.
When we start talking about issues around race and racism, sometimes white people need to just listen.
You hear that? Just shut the hell up and listen. Well, I was keeping track. I saw two professional sports coaches making many millions of dollars. Somebody else married to a hedge funder making many millions of dollars. A lot of rich and powerful people virtue signaling so they can stay rich and powerful. But their ridiculous attitude has a trickle-down effect, and it affects people in the street. How about this? Speaking of a trickle-down effect, Maxine Waters, that nitwit congresswoman from California, showing up in Minneapolis and committing what I believe is a impeachable offense. This is what they accused Donald Trump of doing. He didn't do it, but Maxine did.
We've got to not only stay in the street, but we've got to fight for justice. But I am very hopeful, and I hope that we're going to get a verdict that will say guilty, guilty, guilty. And if we don't, we cannot go away. Well, we got to stay on the street, and we've got to get more active. We've got to get more confrontational. We've got to make sure that they know that we mean business.
More confrontational in the streets. The Chauvin verdict, it could be coming this week. More confrontational, right? That's what we need. That is an American lawmaker, one of how many? 535 lawmakers at the federal level. She's one of them, calling for more confrontation in the street. And the mainstream media says that's okay. You know what this moment is really crying out for? The old Joe Biden. Joe Biden said he would unify us. Remember? He was promised the very essence of his soul was in this, unifying America. That was his solemn promise. Imagine if he came out right now. I don't know how much good it would do, but it would be something, huh? Maybe to go to Minneapolis and say, whatever happens here, We can't hold innocent people accountable. We can't burn down buildings. We can't kill people and harm people and burn down police stations. No, he's just a bystander. He's just along for the ride, and that's very, very sad. So it's up to people, quite frankly, like Newsmax to talk about some of the real issues that the mainstream won't talk about. Fathers not being present for the lives of their children. Education not being a priority in certain communities, and rampant drug use. These things are serious. Oh, and by the way, how about complying with the cops? When they say come this way, when they put you in handcuffs, don't resist, because that has directly led to several of these high-profile deaths. All right, the media obviously very, very irresponsible here because they are setting unreasonable expectations. Anything could happen with the Chauvin verdict, even a not guilty verdict. The last time the country was shocked along these lines, Rodney King, 1992. The video is infamous at this point, classic really, although maybe you're too young to remember, but Rodney King was beaten almost to death by some cops. Yet, they were found not guilty.
We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Lawrence M. Powell, not guilty, find the defendant, Timothy E. Wind, not guilty, find the defendant, Theodore J. Bacino, not guilty, find the defendant, Stacy C. Kuhn, not guilty. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, are these your verdicts? So say you one, so say you all.
Yes. So the public was shocked by those not guilty verdicts, and then all hell broke loose. The LA riots of 1992, billions of dollars worth of damage, innocent people lost their lives. It was total carnage because people were shocked by those verdicts. Here's the thing, they may be shocked all over again with the Minneapolis verdicts. I wish our political leaders and our media culture did more to prepare the public for the eventuality that this might come out differently than how many expect it should come out. And speaking of surprises and things happening unexpectedly, well, remember Officer Sicknick, who died in the aftermath of the Capitol Hill riots? We have an official cause of death finally. Natural causes. Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick died of natural causes after battling rioters. Medical examiner rules. Brian Sicknick, hero cop, by the way. They say he was a Trump supporter. But how many lies did they tell about him and his death?
A Capitol Hill police officer named Brian Sicknick was killed by the mob with a fire extinguisher.
Officer Brian Sicknick died after he was hit in the head with a fire extinguisher.
Fatally wounding Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick, who was struck in the head by a fire extinguisher.
Why did they say that? And why did the FBI confuse the issue?
At the moment, the investigation's still ongoing.
So does that mean, since the investigation is going on, you have not determined the exact cause of the death?
That means we can't yet disclose a cause of death at this stage.
But you have determined the cause of death.
I didn't say that. We're not at a point where we can disclose or confirm a cause of death.
Now, more than 3 months, is it 3 months later, they finally figured it out? What took them so long? What's actually happening here? I believe what's happening here is they are trying to inflict maximum damage on the political right. Trump supporters, making them all feel ashamed and somehow responsible for what happened on January 6th and for the death of Officer Sicknick. Now, is there a larger motive, perhaps? I think so as well. Did you know Donald Trump did better than virtually any Republican in recent memory with African-American voters? Oh yeah, he did in November of 2020. That could have real, lasting impact, and they want to undo it. The best way to undo it is to make him look like a racist and anybody who supports him look like a racist.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.